to Mind Your Body and Soul, the Healthy Podcast. I'm flying solo today. I'm kind of sad that I'm flying solo, but I do want to give a special shout out to my co-host, Mr. Mathias Sweet, and especially our guest host, Miss Alana Steaple, aka Dr. Staples. She earned it. Trust me, she earned the name. So I want to give a shout out to the team, our whole Ryan White team, Miss Marilyn Wright, Miss can't believe I'm forgetting names right now. Marcia, Miss Marcia. It's early in the morning, but I want to give a shout out to the whole Ryan White team for all that you all continuously do. Mr. Mathias Sweet, everybody who on the Ryan White team. We do our thing, and I just want to make sure everybody understands that. So shout out to our team. So with me flying solo today, I said, you know what? I need to have a guest that's going to be a great guest, that the chemistry is going to be there. And I didn't have to search far. I really didn't have to search far. I just went to my messenger, sent the message, say, hey, mister, would you like to be a part of my podcast? And it's going to be all about you. And he was like, sure, why not? Why not? Let me go ahead and be a part of your podcast. So once again, this is the Mind Your Body and Soul, the Healthy Podcast. I am your host for today, Joseph Ward. And remember, Mind Your Body and Soul is an educational podcast that focuses on all things health related to help our listeners learn more about various health topics and information they may not have access to. We seek to inform, empower, uplift, mobilize our listeners to become the healthiest versions of themselves. So we are available every Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, so we're available every Wednesday. You can go to our website at www.neighborhoodmedicalcenter.org/NMC podcast or just nmcpodcast.com. You can also go to anchor.fm/Mind Your Body and Soul, our Neighborhood Medical Center YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Neighborhood Medical Center YouTube channel. We're on all major podcast outlets, Spotify, Apple, I was about to say iTunes. Apple is iTunes, Google Play, iHeart, all those things. And make sure you like our Neighborhood Medical Center Facebook page. We're everywhere. And we're making sure that we take advantage of this new shift to the virtual spaces. So we are here in the virtual spaces. So today, like I say, I didn't have to search far to find this guest. This is a gentleman that has been working in HIV prevention for a number of years, but he's been an advocate for his whole life. He's been an advocate his whole life. He was born with HIV, so he has the experience of a person who is actually living with HIV. Like I say, he's an advocate. He's a health educator. He just got a promotion, and like a $10 million promotion. So he's got a big job with a lot of money in his pocket where he's able to get more in the health education range and give people the information that they need about HIV/AIDS. So somebody I call a friend, and I know this conversation is going to be good because we're going to learn a lot about him, but also a lot about navigating the system as far as finding care for those who are HIV positive. So y'all give it up for Mr. Shawn Krueger. What's going on? Welcome, Shawn.
Good to be here. And disclaimer, I do not make a lot of money. If you work public health, you do it because you love people and you want everybody to live long, healthy lives. It will not make you rich.
Hey, that's the setup. It's the cliffhanger. Just like, oh, he got
Does he really make that much?
Yeah.
Find out next time.
I know. Well, you got to come and sign up so you'll know. So you are. I have a lot of respect for you because in meeting you, and I've met a lot of people over my last 10, 11 years doing this, doing HIV/AIDS prevention, sexual violence prevention. I've met a lot of people, but you are a unique individual, and of course you should be, but you're unique the way you stand out because what you bring to the table as a team. And I just say use this term as a team member because we're all on the same team to be able to fight new infections. So as a team member, your passion, your knowledge, your experience, just everything you bring to the table. I know you, and I've been able to see what you do firsthand, and you do excellent work. So for those who don't know you, can you give some background information about yourself and what made you become an advocate?
Okay, so like you'd mentioned before, I was born with HIV. I was born in Los Angeles County, California. So I was literally born out of what was one of the biggest areas affected by the epidemic. Um, my mom received HIV from a blood transfusion. It was a very unfortunate series of events. Lost her when I was 4 years old, and that was a big motivator for me to continue doing what I do. Is because I've seen what HIV leads to if not treated properly. Almost happened to me, thankfully. Thankfully, new medications came out, so it was more than just AZT, which was awful. But yeah, it's been a huge motivator, especially to stay in care, because I've seen what it's like when someone loses their life to HIV or AIDS-related complications, I should say. And it's not quick. It's very slow. It's hard to watch, and it's even harder to experience.
Right.
So, I have to say right now, because I will say this a lot to anyone out there listening that is living with HIV, get into care and stay in care. Live well, as I will say from the CDC campaign I was actually a part of.
Right.
One of my little project I signed on to. Finally, materials are out for that. By the way, there's a lovely poster of myself and my wife. My wife's actually HIV negative, so we're what we call a magnetic couple. Because a serodiscordant is, one, a mouthful, and two, the word discordant can be
Right.
stigmatizing in its own way.
Right.
Because goodness knows, marriage is hard enough without adding further discord to it.
Right.
So, the important message out of that is, of course, you does equal you. Undetectable equals untransmittable. So,
Right.
because I do everything I'm supposed to do, and that's part of the whole message, you have to be in care, you have to stay in care, you have to take your medications as directed, and you have to maintain that undetectable viral load. Otherwise, you can potentially pass HIV on to other people.
Right.
I know I will ramble on because unfortunately you gave me an open section. So if there's anything specific you need to know, please stop me.
Oh, I got you.
Because the man told me, he was like, "Hey, come and be a guest on my podcast. We're going to talk about you." And I was like, "Great, that's my favorite subject. Let's do it." It didn't take much convincing.
Hey, it's all good.
My career in public health actually came much later. Someone who had actually been assisting me through services said, "Hey, we have a position open. It's for linkage, to help work with linkage-to-care. So when somebody either has fallen out of care or is newly diagnosed, I'm one of the people that goes to that helps talk them through the process of actually getting into care." Right. Which I can tell you, especially as someone who goes through care that knows how to navigate the system, it's almost impossible to do without help. Mm-hmm. There is a lot involved. People fall through the cracks very easily, unfortunately. So you have to stay on top of it. It's not just your case managers; it's also your responsibility.
Right.
I hate to say it, a lot of college students are coming into the life of HIV, and that's not easy to do when you're trying to juggle everything else. But unfortunately, they're one of our highest rated populations. So we're working really hard to try to get those people linked into care. And college students are hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, I would end up, because I had the ability, I'd drive up like to their apartment, leave a letter, anything, like, "Hey, call me. I'm just trying to help you." Mm-hmm. I know it can seem a little intrusive, but it's trying to save not only his life but the lives of future people that he may be with. I understand accidents happen, but it's like seeing both sides of it. I see and understand the necessary evils as they were, the HIV surveillance, like people making phone calls like, hey, you know, are you in care? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
How can we help? They seem bothersome, but we're trying to help.
Right.
We really are.
Right.
Because HIV affects everything.
Yes, it does.
Because it affects your immune system, it affects your entire self. So that's why it's also important I always advocate, when you go to your doctor, if your doctor isn't doing what you feel they need to do, find somebody else.
Right.
Walk out.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm glad you were saying that, because that's another thing I wanted to hit home with this particular podcast with you is getting people to understand the power that they have when you go seek medical care. We work for you.
Yeah.
We work for you, and our job, you're the expert at you, we're the expert at what we do, but you are the expert at you, and you got the money. So you are in charge. So it's being knowledgeable enough and understanding that I have to take control of this situation.
Right. They're making money off of your insurance.
Right.
If you don't have insurance and you have Ryan White services, that purchase order is still paying for that doctor to treat you. If they are giving you the treatment, they don't deserve the money.
Right. So let me ask this. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you hear about HIV that you would like to clear up?
Oh, gosh. Where do I even begin? Gosh.
Take his glasses off.
Take the glasses off. The fights over us trying to get U equals U heard among providers that always want to try to keep with the old information, that don't seem to understand that medicine has evolved over time, which I don't understand how a doctor can feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I get that they can be skeptical, but when you can actually go on and look at what the CDC is saying, look at what the World Health Organization is saying, look at what numerous organizations, advocacy networks, we're all trying to push this very valuable information, you still don't want to listen.
Right.
And then everything around PrEP, which, by the way, guys, if you're on PrEP, you still have to wear condoms because other STDs still exist. Yeah. It does not stop anything else.
So, explain what the U equals U for those who may not know. What is U?
Okay, so this is, I know every time I mention it, it's like, because I'm actually part of the work group that is trying to establish the messaging for the state. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot to unpack. But the basis is that someone who's living with HIV, one of the most important numbers that we look at is our viral load. Viral load gives us an idea of how much of the virus is actually running through our system at any given point in time.
Right.
So the lower viral load gets, someone who's newly diagnosed, it differs depending on where they are after transmission. Directly after transmission, they could be in like 16 million copies, in millions and millions of copies, right. And eventually that tapers off, and they'll usually be in like the 100,000s. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to bring that all the way down to the point where viral suppression hits at around 200 copies. Mm-hmm. Is official viral suppression. Undetectable will actually be depending on the test. Older tests were about 75 copies per milliliter is when it would be undetectable. Newer tests have brought that down even farther. Now it's less than 20.
Right.
So the idea is that you get to that level, and then once you're at that level, because transmission chance is actually proportionate to viral load. So the higher your viral load, the higher your chance of transmitting. Right. Well, if you get it down to virally suppressed, at least less than 200, and you maintain that for greater than 6 months, that means you go to the doctor after you've started medication.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you have an undetectable viral load. Okay,
Right.
now things are starting. 6 months later, so usually that would be another visit. That would be 2 visits later, because you usually newly diagnosed, you have it about every 3 months. So
Right.
that means at that 6-month point, that next blood test, if it maintains undetectable, you officially cannot transmit the virus sexually.
Right.
So that is the goal. Now, what does that mean for your medication? It means still take it.
Right. Because you have to
You have
maintain.
to keep taking it as
Right.
directed. Do not miss doses. There's probably a lot of multiple things on the internet that's like, oh, it's okay to miss 1 or 2. Take every dose. Forming the habit is the most important thing.
Right.
And then you have to maintain that. So if you stop taking medication, the U equals U does not apply to you anymore, because that virus can rebound and then your viral load will spike.
Okay.
And I could go into the whole thing of like viral load and immune system, why viral load is higher in certain people and lower in others. HIV is a very extensive field, and it's hard to sit down and like a half hour to hour conversation
Right.
and unpack everything. It's impossible.
Right. Right.
And
Now.
this is knowledge I've accumulated over years.
Right. Right.
Almost as long as it takes for someone to get a full college education.
Yeah. 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 But the basic premise of what you're saying is.
But the basic premise is take your meds, reach undetectable, maintain that, and you
Right.
won't be able to transmit the virus.
Right. Right.
If you become detectable again and it goes above viral suppression, I'm sorry to say, but for all intents and purposes, you have to start from square one.
Okay. Okay. But it can be reached, and U equals U. That's not something that's a one-time thing. So even if somebody may hit a spot in their life where they do stop taking medicines, if they get back on the medicines and be consistent with it, they can once again get to a undetectable level.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So from your experience, what was it like as a child learning that you were HIV positive, but also what type of effects did the medicines have on you when you first started taking them? So.
Oh gosh. Well, it's hard to remember when I first started taking them.
Mm-hmm.
I was unfortunately one of those babies that had to get AZT through a syringe orally, which, by the way, liquid AZT doesn't taste very bad, but it kind of burns on the way down. It's almost like taking a shot of whiskey, but not as intense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like one of those that were like side effects potentially like that I wouldn't notice as a kid. I was relatively low energy. I could tire out very easily. In my adult life, it seems like nothing has changed, but trust me, it's because I'm an adult now, not with anything else affecting me.
Right.
But no, it's like I've always had problems with like energy throughout my life. Fatigue is a very real thing.
Mm-hmm.
But especially as a kid learning I had HIV, I actually covered that in my TED Talk, TEDx Tallahassee. It is posted on YouTube. We'll get into that later, but it's one of those things. When they told me, I knew nothing about it. My family had actually done a fantastic job of keeping me completely in the dark about everything that was going on, why I was taking medications, why I had to go to the doctor at regular times, and no one else I knew went to the doctor that often.
Right.
So when they told me, it was like, oh, okay, so I guess that's a thing now. So stigma didn't exist for me. I had no reason to stigmatize myself. My family was like, you don't tell anybody, they'll burn down our house. And I was like, I don't see why someone would do that. So of course, I've always had a big mouth. So I immediately started telling all my friends. I was like, "Hey, this is what I know." And I was just starting middle school,
Right.
actually. I was 11 years old. Then by the time I hit high school, I had really started looking at it. I started talking to my doctors. I was like, I need to know this, especially because friends ask questions. I had almost all my friends in high school wondering, when is he going to check out?
Right.
And I had to explain to them, like, guys, it's not a terminal cancer diagnosis. Like, I'm living with it.
Right.
The important thing is I'm living. And I'm
Exactly.
going to continue living.
Exactly.
And then it was kind of one of those, I had to build this knowledge over time. And because I had inquisitive friends around me, I had to know more. Because now I was the only link, because schools aren't teaching this stuff.
No, they're not. They're not. They don't want to talk about sex.
No. Our kids aren't having sex.
Right.
But I'm not. You can ask Joe. Me and abstinence only. That's a whole other conversation.
Because it's like my thing is it's almost as if the mindset, oh, the human race is not continuing. That's not happening. We don't need to talk about this stuff.
No, they well, it's like they forget what they were like when they were kids.
Right.
And it's just but anyway, I will you can ask Joe. I can rant about this.
We can.
But oh gosh, the biggest side effects I experienced was an inflamed pancreas when I was in middle school. 2 weeks in the hospital. It was because one of my medications had finally hit me with this potentially deadly side effect. Pancreatitis is no joke.
Right.
There's no real treatment for it. All they can give you is some anti-inflammatories and painkillers. The most important thing is the painkillers. Trust me, anything hitting your pancreas hurts a lot.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was hard. After that, it's a lot of startup stuff. When I swap my regimens, unfortunately now on a single tablet regimen now. Right. And startup was a bit of nausea, headaches, the first day or the first few days, which I was actually at a conference at the time, like right after I had started. So everybody was asking me if I was hungover from the night before. Well, it's a conference. If you're at a conference with drug companies, it's not hard to find a cocktail party.
That's true.
but no, and it was very much like that. They saw me. I was not my usual self. I was very groggy. But the important thing to remember is that goes away.
Right. Okay.
After that first few days, the headaches went away. The nausea was gone. To those of you looking to start medication, it's usually about the first week or so that you may be experiencing this. Your experience may vary, but the important thing is that stops. If it doesn't, that's a conversation to be had with your doctor.
Right.
Medication is also something that is negotiable. Taking it, not negotiable. However, the actual meds you are taking, there's a whole world of medication out there. I know it can seem like trial and error. People living with HIV, we have been guinea pigs from the beginning. I hate to say it like that, but especially those of us like myself, perinatal cases, we are science experiments. No one has seen someone live this far with HIV from birth. We are the pioneers.
Right.
Scientists are really seeing and doctors are seeing what these effects are as we grow older. And as we seem to be growing older faster than everybody else.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you this, because there have been a evolution in the medicines. So, and you were just explaining some of the early side effects that a person may experience when they start a new regimen. So, are you still experiencing that now with the new single tablet drugs that they have, or is that what you explaining was what you experienced in the past?
Oh, this was the change to the new single tablet regimen I just took.
Okay.
Even if you're experienced with ARVs, your body is still adjusting to new chemicals entering its system, especially new chemicals that are entering through your digestive tract.
Right. Okay. Okay.
But there were actually one thing I want to mention, protease inhibitors. They work. If they work for you, great. Again, everybody's experience varies. I took Sativa for a while. I heard people having hallucinations, weird dreams. I'm a weird guy. I didn't have dreams out of the ordinary for me, but
real quick for our audience, could you just quickly explain what protease inhibitor and the ARV is?
Okay, so like we said, there's a lot of information to unpack for HIV, and I forget that a lot of people don't have. If anyone, trust me, I don't have my chart in front of me, but everything, fusion inhibitors, non-nukes, nukes, which trust me, nukes and non-nukes is the easiest way to say those.
Right.
You're looking at non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Those are non-nukes.
The magic going out the community and say, hey, you got this?
That's for two different classes of reverse transcriptase inhibitors. The fusion inhibitors I mentioned, the protease inhibitors, and each of these affects a different stage in the HIV life cycle. Right. Like there's a whole chart you can look up. I think there's one on AIDS.gov. It's fantastic. I have it in every slide presentation I present because it's so important, because knowing the life cycle is how you realize how these meds work. Yes. Because everyone affects a different form of the life cycle. Protease inhibitors actually affect one of the last stages of the life cycle, where it's the protease is helping converting the DNA back into RNA. Again, it's a lot to unpack. Yeah. But the important thing to remember about protease inhibitors is some of the side effects, particularly a condition called lipodystrophy. Mm-hmm. Lipodystrophy is whenever your fat in your body is distributed more concentrated in places where there wouldn't be as much given any given body type. Mm-hmm. So it's usually a lot in the belly, not just the belly fat outside, but there's also internal fat, like around the liver, leads to a condition known as fatty liver, which is not good. Right. And then on the back, you can form like a hump almost. You may notice some people that have been living with HIV for a long time, like a lot of older generations, you can kind of see where that fat is distributing on their back. That's because the medications they're taking generally. Right. It can be scary, but honestly, I'd rather have like a little bit extra fat on my back than to have no fat at all, because I'm dead.
Right. Nah, but I appreciate you breaking that down though, because once you would really get into HIV prevention and you learning everything about the life cycle, I just nerd out on the life cycle part. So we did do a podcast, Miss Steaple and Mathias and I. We kind of broke down the life cycle and different things that actually go into how HIV gets into the system, how it works into the system. So I do appreciate that. You're diagnosed as a child, you're going through your experiences with the medicines. So when does the advocacy on your part really pick up? When is that something that you kind of see as, all right, this is something I want to move forward with because there are many other people who can benefit from this information?
Well, a lot of it stemmed from the first time I was finally able to go to the Positive Living Conference that's held in Destin, Florida. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it had to be pushed back this year due to COVID. It's normally every year in September. So it got pushed back to March of next year. I will actually be there presenting a workshop.
Good.
But no, like when I went there the first time, I saw this huge community of people, and a lot of people there are advocates. They travel, they spoke, and I was like, I could be doing this. I've had people tell me, like providers, they would talk to me because I talk to everybody. I talk to my case managers and stuff. I have to have a face-to-face relationship with my providers and my case managers. Otherwise, it just doesn't work for me. But no, that really got me into thinking I could be doing this. And then eventually, once I got my job in public health and I was more exposed, I was having more opportunities to get out there. It just exploded from there. I've been working in public health for about 2.5 years now. And since starting, I have had multiple speaking engagements. I've come out, I've done a few with Neighborhood Medical Center. I did my TED Talk. I did the CDC campaign with my lovely wife, who is in the kitchen. I hope she's hearing all the wonderful things I'm saying about her. She's fantastic. I couldn't do this without her.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really exploded. It really exploded on me. So now I'm just working on, like, how can I do more? Like, how can I reach out and do more and more, while still remembering to keep both my feet on the ground. Because trust me, guys, when people ask you to get on a podcast and talk about yourself, it can go straight to your head.
It can. It can.
The important thing is to remember that I'm doing this for a reason. This is not for me. Right. This is because I am what some would call a success story, but I am also what can be the normalcy. This is what living with HIV should look like.
Right. But and I'm glad you stated it like that, and the context that you're putting it in, because growing up, especially growing up here in Tallahassee, for me, the look of HIV, because we learned about the look of it before we learned anything. So it was a person who was very thin, who had sores on their body. And so that stuck in our heads.
Especially, which was, I do want to interrupt you. It was a wonderful campaign. It's a little dated now, but it still does exist. I think it was the Faces of AIDS campaign. Yes. I'm actually friends with several people who were in that campaign.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was like everyone, like they were experiencing that wasting. The face is very gaunt, very, like, looked like there wasn't much. They had some of them even had they had them look and had the most dead look on their faces. It was a very strong, moving, artistic piece. But the thing, like you were saying, it's like, that's not how it is, though.
Right.
Not anymore.
Right. It isn't. And even at that point, that may have been a number of people who may have come from low income settings, who didn't have access to care, didn't even know how to find access to care. But from the information that I've learned and things that I've seen, people who were in care look different even at that time. And even seeing a Magic Johnson. But I know in my community, a lot of the rhetoric was, okay, well, Magic Johnson is rich. So that's why Magic Johnson is where he is, and he's rich. But now looking back, I'm thinking, well, Eazy-E was rich too. So it's more about than just money. It's, first of all, knowing your status, getting tested. We recommend people getting tested every 3 months to make sure you know your status. You meet a new partner, you all get tested. If you think you need to get tested, get tested. If you dream about you need to get tested. Just make sure you know your status.
Yeah, if you're asking yourself the question, should I get tested? Yes, because obviously there is something in your life, either consciously or subconsciously, that you feel like you have been put at risk.
Right.
Go get tested, learn your risk factors. Not necessarily because it's one of those things. I'm very much a sex positive person. I know one of the recommendations is reduce sex partners. If that's how you want to live your life, fine. You can be safe about it though.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and when your HIV counselor sits down with you and goes over the test with you and everything, and they give you recommendations, take them into account.
Right. So with that being said, because before we get into the TED Talk, because I do want to make sure people understand why we're saying it and promoting it, because it was very excellent. But can you give our listeners and our watchers, our viewers rather, an idea of what it's like being in care and going through care? Because you mentioned earlier that you could go through it and not really have an idea of what's going on. So from your perspective of somebody who's gone through care, but also who helps others go through care, what is being in care and what's the process like?
Okay, so a lot of it starts off with the moment of diagnosis. How am I going to pay for everything? Because HIV care is very expensive. You're talking $36,000 to $40,000 a year in meds.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You don't have to pay that.
Right.
That's the most important thing, is that when it comes down to your HIV care, you can get it down to where you don't pay a dime.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the navigators are there for, are to link you to those services. The Ryan White program is a wonderful program that helps provide these services. However, it's a lot to navigate. There is a whole umbrella of services, which is why there's case managers there to help you. But to apply for it, you have to be sure you have everything available. So you have to have that first test result as what we call a proof of positivity.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot and will not receive services unless you have that. And undetectable viral load. If you're swapping to a different area, undetectable viral load labs do not count.
Right.
Unfortunately. So once you have that proof of positivity, you have to have proof of residence, where you're living. Make sure you're living in their service area. You have to have your photo ID or some form of identification. What else is there? Proof of insurance if you have it. Like, I work in HIV. I have my own insurance. However, I still make below the threshold for Ryan White services. So yes, you can still have a career and get Ryan White services as long as you fall under that threshold. I have insurance that help me cover copays. I have a copay card from the manufacturer that pays for the copay for my meds. The important thing is that while these are daunting, you can get help.
Mm-hmm.
Local health departments have information on linkage services. If you need them, they can have you talk to a linkage coordinator. Find your local community-based organization that provides these services is not, for some people, may not be easy. Again, that's why I say your local health department. People usually know where it is. Some may be familiar with it. Walking in and asking for help is one of the best ways to try to get linked with somebody, because usually someone at the front desk, because it happened with me, you'll talk to someone at the front desk. If you have to leave, then leave your number. I'll get a call. Like, one of the linkage coordinators will get a call because the providers know who we are, and they'll be like, hey, we found somebody, they need help.
Right.
Then it's trying to find transportation. Sometimes the linkage coordinators can help with like bus passes. Some of them, I used to have the authority to actually transport people to their appointments personally. After that, usually Ryan White Services will help provide transportation depending on who your provider is. And I know I'm saying a lot because it is a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So is to take a moment, breathe, and realize you have help. You can get through this. It can be frustrating, but don't give up.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Even I have trouble navigating through services because sometimes providers don't talk properly, and that I get agitated. I'm one of those. I'm guilty of it. It's like I'm healthy enough. I'll worry about this later. Forget it. I step away from it. The important thing I do though is I still make sure that my HIV is taken care of,
Right.
even if other secondary conditions are still important. The main thing is that I'm sure that I make sure I get my meds.
Right.
That I make sure that I still get my blood work done, get my appointments. That blood work can save your life because I check for a lot of stuff that can throw up red flags for other illnesses that may be potentially linked to your HIV or may be due to other complications. White blood cell counts, kidney function, liver function. People don't realize this blood work does not just help with your HIV. It can find a lot and early.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It can. It can. Yeah. Because I've had my experience as prevention training consultant, early intervention consultant, contract manager, linkage-to-care coordinator. I started doing the training for the disease intervention specialist. So just going out and finding people, but going out and educating people, going out and letting people know what it's like. Well, we have care. So from my vantage point, it was always we have care, we have care, we have care. What's great about you is you've gone through the care and you're able to, and of course, like you say, we don't have all the time in the world to break it down here, but you can give insight because people would ask me about going through care and I can only give them a specific point of view. And I never tried to give them a point of view from a person who's gone through care because that's just disingenuous. So, but that's why I'm one reason I want to have you on here, but another reason that you're an asset because when you meet a person who's a new positive, you can give them information I can't give. Like you give them a personal experience, and yes, their experience may not be anything like yours, but now they have a better picture, a better idea of what's going on. And that's what makes you such a strong advocate.
Like one actually did ask me once. They asked, "What should I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what should I do to be healthier?" And I told them, I was like, "Look, you need to do the same thing that everybody else does, except now you need to actually be more motivated to do it.
Right, right,
Everybody should learn to live healthy, but the thing is, I try to put a new light on everything. HIV has actually saved people's lives.
yes,
Follow me. They they run through, they don't take their health seriously. Next thing they know, they get a potentially terminal diagnosis. I say potentially because the occurrences of AIDS have been significantly decreased.
yes,
Like if you guys saw the graphs, you would be astonished.
yes.
AIDS diagnoses comparatively are very rare compared to what they used to be. But it's been an eye opener that they really need to take care of themselves, that they really need to take their life and their health seriously. Not everybody looks at it that way, unfortunately, but some have actually come out and said, "This has saved my life."
Yeah, being able to access care, but
Yeah.
like you were saying, um, you got a lot of people who may not have ever had health care or took health care serious. Um, a lot of young people who still think that they're invincible. Like young people, just give y'all, you are not invincible. It still hurts when you hit something hard. Like you're not invincible, but you're right though. I've heard people even in other countries who stated what you stated, HIV saved their life. But even hey, I can actually get my HIV treated quicker than I can
Mhm.
if I break my leg. And it's like the resources for HIV care is there in abundance, but you have to know how to navigate.
Yeah, like right now in the state of Florida, if you test positive for HIV at a local health department, they will start your meds that day.
Yes.
Within 24 hours, you will have a bottle of medication. Usually you will have it in hand before you leave your appointment.
It's called test and treat. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a wonderful program.
Right. And in addition, like PEP, accessing PEP and PrEP services, we had Dr. Brianna Journay come on and give us real good information, in-depth information about PEP and PrEP services. But same thing with that. You come in the office, you're looking to access PEP or PrEP, you're going to have, before you go to bed that night, you're going to have your meds. So just know that, like, that's the way the system works, but that's the way we work. Like the first time I worked with Shawn, we were on FAMU campus, testing on campus, and what was cool about it is I didn't really have to worry about you not knowing, because as I was paying attention, I was listening, I was like, well, you know your stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And but it was cool because, like I said, we don't meet a lot of people who come through who actually know their stuff. But it's not just them knowing their stuff; it's they really care. That's in addition to that, like they really, really, really care, and that led to what's happening on your shirt, TEDx Tallahassee. How did that happen? How did you end up becoming a part of TEDx Tallahassee?
Well, Joe, I think you know better than anybody how that happened. This man right here actually is the only reason I even knew about it. He asked me if I was going to apply, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so he sent me the link to the Facebook announcements. I put in my application because I was like, you know what? Why not?
Right.
You can't win the lottery if you don't play. So I find myself saying that more and more the older I get. But no, like I was like, you know what? I'm going to just throw it out there. I'm going to see if it sticks. And sure enough, I made my it was like a 1.5 minute application video. It's the only video I have on my YouTube channel. And I sent it through, and the next thing I know, like, hey, we picked you. And I was like, that's fantastic. And they're like, okay, well, we need the first draft of your script by this day. And I was like, you need my what?
Right.
Because as Joe knows how I do my public speaking, it is straight off the top of my head. I might have an idea days before what I'm going to say, but by the time I get up to that podium and I just whatever comes out comes out.
Yeah.
Like every time I speak, it's a different experience, both for me and everybody around me.
Hey.
I give a very impassioned one at the AIDS walk.
Yeah.
Earlier this year. I wore war paint because I felt like it was
It was us going to war.
Yeah, because that's what it is. We're at war. People who are living with HIV are at war against stigma, even if they don't realize it.
Your dog's at war too.
I'm at home, so sometimes someone will drive by the window in something bigger than a sedan, and the dog will have something to say about it. Anyway, so the TED Talk. Hey! Hater!
There you go.
My wife's trying to help me out. Thank you. Thanks, love. But that's what my life is like, guys. I'll be in the middle of something and something random will just throw me off.
It's okay.
But the TED Talk was one of the first times I actually did something that needed to be focused, that needed to be structured, that needed to go less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That I struggled. But going through it, even developing it, my first draft was all over the place. And then because it went more into me, and then I was talking to my coach and I said something. I was like, in conversation, I was like, it's hard when I sit here and I look at how far we've come as far as treatment and how little we as people living with HIV have actually gotten as far as our public view. And it hit me. This is it.
Right.
This is what I need to talk about. Anyone that knows me, that has worked with me, that has seen me speak, I cannot speak about HIV without talking about stigma. Every presentation that I've given, every single little class I've taught, stigma is always an ever-present thing. Either you experience it externally, people may look at you differently after they learn your status, or it's internally. Internal stigma is some of the most damaging, because you can walk away from someone who stigmatizes you out in the world.
Right.
You can't walk away from yourself.
Right.
So sometimes you sit there stewing like, where's my life going? When is this finally going to be the end of me? Like, and even I experience it, and I have a very expansive knowledge. I know what's going on. But you can't stop your brain from thinking, well, crap, when's my heart going to give out? Because now I know statistics.
Right.
50 to 89% increased chance of cardiovascular disease in people who live with HIV and have a family history. It's a lot to think about.
Right.
But I still keep doing what I'm doing because I understand the importance of showing people HIV is not what it was. HIV has changed. We need to stop looking at it as what it is and try to normalize it while still allowing people to understand the dangers of it. Right. Because while you can live a long, healthy life with HIV, it'll still complicate things. It's a complication that you do not need if you can avoid it.
Right. But this is the exact reason why I approached you about the TEDx stuff, because I learned about it. Somebody sent it to me, and I was like, you were the first person that popped in my mind. I'm gonna be honest. I really have no idea why it was you, but I'm glad it was you. You popped in my mind. And then when I saw you, I was like, I wanted to make sure that I got the message to you, because everything that's happening to you, you deserve it. You work for it. You put the time in. You're good at what you do. You are a role model for a lot of people who are living with HIV, people who are born with HIV, who may not understand that or even know that there's a future for themselves as a human being, but just a future as a professional. And so you are a trailblazer in that sense, because you are opening a lot of doors and allowing a lot of people to see that I can literally do anything, and the only thing that's going to hold me back is my mindset.
And it's one thing that I definitely want to touch on, because this came up when I was in one of the community advisory group work calls. Is actually, no, this was the stigma task force call. I sat there and they were like, all these advocates, like, how are they doing? And I'm like, you have to look like, yes, there are a few of us that managed to come forward. And when you look at it on paper, it may seem like a lot, but when you take into account that there's a couple hundred of us in the United States that are actually very active, that are doing more to get out there, and we're trying to reach millions.
Right.
Millions of people. Like, we're not famous. We're not Al Roker. We're not, someone who's big in media. We are normal people that are trying our best to reach out and throw out everything we can to show people there's not enough of us.
Right.
We're doing everything we can, and a lot of us still feel like it's not enough. We do what we can in our little communities, but I I think too much in the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those, if you are out there and you are living with HIV and you feel like you could do some of this work, it does not hurt to step forward. Every little bit helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you don't think like, my little voice can't, your little voice can mean the world to somebody.
Right. Right. Now it's real.
And it does not have to be as loud as mine.
Now and it's real, but because there are many different faces. Like you mentioned, the Faces of HIV campaign, and people, you can actually go to YouTube and search Faces of HIV, and it's a number of different videos that you'll be able to get to watch. But it's so many different facets. It's so many different people who come from different walks of life, who have experienced different things. And Shawn may not be able to reach, like you say, he's not going to be able to reach everybody. And Shawn may not be for everybody, but there's somebody that can be for somebody, who can be an inspiration, or somebody that they can look up to and say, well, you know what? Either I can do this, or I'm going to take my life, going to take control of my life, take my health in my hands, and actually be the healthiest version of myself. And so that's the reason why we do what we do, but especially somebody like Shawn, that's the reason why the work that you do is exceptional work, and it's needed work, because we want as many people to be as healthy as possible.
And if you don't feel like advocating for anybody else, that's fine, but advocate for yourself.
Yes. So real quick before we wrap this up, tell us again about your CDC campaign, and how can we find it and support it and share it and everything.
Okay, so if you go to cdc.gov, they have several campaigns. Usually I think one of the easiest ways to do it is a Google search of our let's see, HIV treatment works CDC campaign. Their Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. And what you can do is, when you're browsing through that, you can search materials.
Mm-hmm.
When you search and just type in my name, just Shawn is enough. There's a couple other Shawns that are involved.
Spell your Shawn.
SHAWN.
Okay.
You're looking for Shawn Krueger, KRUEGER. If you can't spell that, I don't blame you. But you'll see a picture of me. There's a poster of me walking next to my wife, and then there's a video of me during my interview. Hopefully they took a whole day's worth of material. I hope they put out more than that.
Yeah.
It was a long day, but if not, is what it is. I got a poster that can be viewed nationwide, so that's a thing. Everyone can enjoy this thing I call a face. But the important thing is to remember that it's true. HIV treatment does work.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel it's not currently working for you, advocate for yourself to try to find a treatment that does.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's great about this, and what I really enjoy about this virtual space, is we get to pour all of our information into these virtual spaces and put it out and let as many people hear it as possible. So that's like technology. You got to love the technology, but you got to make sure you take advantage of it. Now that's what we're doing here. We're gonna take full advantage of this. Of course, if coronavirus wasn't around, we'll be out in our communities more, but we got to make sure we stay safe as possible, so we can't necessarily be out. So we're gonna flood y'all ways with these virtual we're gonna flood these virtual spaces with this information. And just know, this is not our last time talking through this medium. Just know that. Because I mean, we open up a couple cans slightly. So we got to open things all the way up so we can really get into it.
Oh yeah, like schedule this. Like I'll come in, I'll talk about every single facet of HIV imaginable.
Right.
We could spend an hour just talking about the life cycle.
Right. So how can so let's say I come across this video, I come across this audio of this, and I say, he sounds interesting. He sounds like he'll be a great asset to something what I want to do. How can I get in contact with him? How can people get in contact with you?
Okay. Whew. Well, the main thing is I'm on Facebook a lot. I'm in a lot of different groups, especially those for people like me that are living with HIV. But my Facebook is just my name, Shawn Krueger. You can find me. My main profile pic is myself, my wife, and our war paint. Because I particularly like that one. It says Black Lives Matter, loud and proud.
There you go.
I will die on that hill easily. But that's the main way to get in contact with me. I don't have too many. My wife is getting on to me about starting my own business and having my own stuff. So if I do get something like that started, by all means, I will give you every link imaginable. Joe will get it and he can share it in the future if he wants to. But for right now, Facebook is the main way to get in contact with me for anybody outside of my own circle.
Right.
I don't go into my work simply because of my the position I hold and who I work for. I try to keep my work and what I do in my advocacy separate.
Right.
Because my views do not reflect the views of who I work for.
Right.
Not directly. So I just want everybody to know that what you get here, this is me. This is not my work professional me. So yeah.
Yeah. So what time?
I'm also an animal lover, so there's a lot in the house. 3 dogs and my cat.
They say they need that camera time as well.
Yeah. I'm surprised my cat didn't go walking behind me on the couch. But I'd say Facebook is the easiest way. Just message me when it comes down to HIV advice and information. I try to be as open as possible about it, because if people don't talk about it, we're not going to get anything done.
Right. Definitely true. Well, Shawn, I definitely appreciate you, man. Appreciate what you do in the community. Appreciate just you as a human being, and especially you giving up your time to be on this podcast. So with that being said, this is Mind Your Body and Soul. I am Joseph Ward, and just remember, we are the Healthy Podcast, and Mind Your Body and Soul is an educational podcast that focuses on all things health related to help our listeners learn more about various health topics and information they may not have access to. We seek to inform, empower, uplift, and mobilize our listeners to become the healthiest versions of themselves. Remember, every Wednesday, we are here, Mind Your Body and Soul. Visit www.neighborhoodmedicalcenter.org/NMC podcast or nmcpodcast.com. Go to anchor.fm/Mind Your Body and Soul. Subscribe to our subscribe to our Neighborhood Medical Center YouTube channel, and we have our Mind Your Body and Soul playlist there. We're on all major podcast outlets, and make sure you like our Mind Your Body and Soul Facebook page. So with that being said, I am Joseph Ward. He's the man. He's Shawn Krueger, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Be well. Stay safe, everyone.